Title: 22 Years of Marriage, She Beat Cancer, Then Betrayed Me for a One-Night Stand. Chapter 1. After the storm came peace. For 22 years she was my home. My wife wasn't just my partner, she was my anchor, my best friend, my entire world. When she was diagnosed with uterine cancer earlier this year, I didn't flinch. Stage 1. A full hysterectomy. I took a leave from work, cooked every meal, changed her bandages, held her hand through every wave of fear. I was there because I loved her. Because I thought we were unbreakable. And when she recovered, when her strength returned and the color came back to her face, it felt like we were given a second chance at life. A rebirth. We booked a trip to Europe. Then another to the islands. She danced in the rain in Bice, laughed at sea with her hair wild in the wind. She signed up for yoga, swimming, cooking classes. Reborn with a new energy. I supported every step of it. I was grateful we had more time, more memories, more chances to live. I never questioned any of it. Not until last week. She came home that night after work, looked me in the eyes with a strange kind of calm, and asked me something that shattered the air between us. She wanted a hall pass. She said it so gently, like she was asking if we could get Chinese food for dinner. A one-time thing. A goodbye fling with a coworker who was leaving the company. Someone she'd always found attractive. She said it had nothing to do with me, but everything to do with her. And if I said no, she'd be disappointed. Maybe even resent me. Maybe call me toxic for denying her freedom. I was stunned into silence. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, watching everything I thought we had crack open like thin ice underfoot. And then she said she was going anyway. That she'd booked the hotel. That she hoped I'd still be there when she got back. And in that moment I realized, the woman I loved might have never truly come back from the cancer. And I had no idea if the stranger now living in my house was ever coming back at all. Chapter 2. The stranger in my bed. She said I could ask her anything, after it happened. Not before. Not now. She wouldn't even tell me his name. Said I'd obsess. That I'd spiral. And maybe, she was right. But that didn't make it hurt any less. For days I wrestled with it. My heart said to fight. My brain said to run. Her best friend called me callous for not understanding what she'd been through. 22 years. I was there through what she'd been through. Every moment. I told her no. No, I don't approve. No, I won't pretend this is okay. She smiled like I was being naive. Like this was something I'd eventually accept. It's one night, she said. We're meant to be no matter what, she whispered. Then Saturday came. She left for the send-off party with her coworkers. She texted me when she arrived. And I asked her, "Are you really going to do this?" Her reply, "I'm not answering any more questions tonight. I'll see you tomorrow." I stared at my screen, breath shallow, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Then I did something I still don't fully understand. I grabbed my coat and keys, and I went to the bar. Not inside. Just across the street. A silent spectator. An aching fool. I sat on a cold bench and waited, watching people come and go, wondering who he was. What kind of man makes a married woman throw away decades for a final night? Eventually I saw them. He stepped outside to loud cheers and hugs. Then she emerged. My wife. She looked around nervously, then reached out and took his hand. And just like that, she walked away. Hand in hand into the night. Toward the hotel. And I realized in that moment. She didn't just walk away from me that night. She walked away from us. Chapter 3. The lock on the door. I didn't follow them inside. I didn't need to. Watching her hand in his was enough to kill something inside me. By the time I got home, it was nearly midnight. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how I had ended up here, how a lifetime of loyalty could be treated like a disposable receipt. At sunrise I got up, walked to the master bedroom and locked the door. Then I gathered her things, quietly, methodically, and moved them to the guest room. No screaming. No drama. Just silence. I left a note on her pillow. Please find other accommodations as soon as possible. Then I called a friend of mine, a lawyer, and by that afternoon I had referrals to divorce attorneys. She started calling me around 11 a.m. dozens of missed calls. I listened to 2 voicemails. She sounded confused, worried, like she didn't expect me to actually react. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That night I returned home late. I didn't want a confrontation, I just wanted sleep. But she was waiting. As I came up the stairs, she emerged from the family room. "We need to talk," she said, voice soft, eyes searching. I kept walking. "I'm not interested in discussing this tonight." I shut the bedroom door behind me and locked it again. She stood outside trying to talk through the wood. But eventually even her words ran out. In that moment, behind a locked door, I didn't feel like a husband. I felt like a man who'd just lost something sacred. Something he thought could never be taken. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted it back. Chapter 4. The Circle of Shame. The days that followed were a blur of avoidance and grief. I didn't want to talk. Not to her. Not to anyone. I focused on work. I filled the silence with routine. But silence has a way of amplifying the echo of betrayal. Then came the ambush. I walked through the front door one evening to find her sitting there, with backup. Her best friend. 2 others. And my mother-in-law. They weren't there to listen. They were there to fix me. "She's been through so much," one said. "You don't understand what it's like to face death," another chimed in. "At least she was honest with you," her BFF snapped. "You're cruel for treating her like this after everything she's been through." I stood there while they circled, their voices layering over each other like a choir of shame. And when the barrage finally slowed, I smiled. A small, cold smile. "Are you done?" I asked. They blinked, confused. Then I turned to my wife and said, "Is there anyone else you forgot to invite to this intervention?" And then I told them, calmly, clearly, that I'd be contacting their husbands. To tell them how they tried to shame a man into staying with a cheater. The room went quiet. I said they had no right to a voice in whether I stayed or left, because I never had one in her betrayal. And with that I asked them to leave. After they were gone, she stood alone in the kitchen. She apologized. But it wasn't real. "I regret everything," she said. "No," I replied. "You regret the consequences. That's not remorse." Then I asked her the one question I couldn't silence. Why? Why throw it all away? She looked at the floor. Said the cancer changed her. Made her feel like she was racing toward the end and needed to do something for herself. Something selfish. Something wild. Something that wasn't about being a wife or a mother. She said he was just easy. Interested. Opposite of me. I stared at her, this woman I once adored, and whispered, "If I was going to risk our marriage, it wouldn't be for someone beneath me." And then I told her the truth. I saw them. I watched her walk away with him. And now, I could never look at her the same again. Chapter 5. The Final Disconnect. I told her everything. That I saw them walk hand in hand. That I followed them to the hotel. That I went home, not because I accepted it but because there was nothing left to say. She stared at me, frozen, like she hadn't expected me to witness it all. I told her I couldn't stay with someone who chose so little respect for me, for us. She begged. She offered counseling. Promised she'd answer every question. I said no. "I didn't break this," I told her. "You did. Counseling won't unshatter trust." She tried bargaining. "What if we tried an open relationship just on your side? What if we had threesomes?" I wanted to laugh, but it wasn't funny. It was desperate. Pathetic even. Every attempt to fix what she broke only dug the wound deeper. Eventually she moved in with her mother, but still came by unannounced. Offering to cook, clean, bring groceries, check in. I told her she needed to call before ever coming by again. And for the first time I saw the cracks forming in her delusion. She still thought this was a rough patch. She thought time would heal it. That I'd get over it. But I wasn't broken. I was clear. And then came the hardest part. Telling our daughter. I kept it brief. Respectful. But she asked why. So I told her. Gently. Truthfully. She cried. And then begged me to forgive her mother. To try again. And for a moment I saw the cost of all this, not just to me but to our child. But even that wasn't enough to undo what had been done. Later that night I sat in the quiet of my home, now emptier than ever, and realized something painfully true. I had been desperate to hold on to something that no longer existed. Chapter 6. A Future Without Her. 40 days later not much had changed, except me. The woman I once loved had become a ghost in my life. Present but hollow. She still insisted we could fix this. Said she'd give me anything in the divorce if I just agreed to counseling. I refused. We were now legally separated, 1 year required before we could finalize the divorce. The house. It was mine before the marriage. She had no claim. The assets? She could take what was fair. But not my peace. I watched her go from defiant, to remorseful, to desperate. Begging. Pleading. Bargaining. She even offered things she would have never allowed in our marriage before. All of it felt like grasping at control, not love. Then came the final blow. I told the husbands of her friends, those same women who ambushed me, who backed her cheating, that they tried to shame me into silence. Some of them found things on their wives' phones. Emotional affairs. Sexting. Marriages cracked. Trust imploded. Turns out, my wife wasn't the only one dancing with fire. She was just the one who got caught first. Now she's alone. Cut off. Living with her mother. Still texting. Still showing up sometimes without asking. I told her not to. I told her I was done. The worst part? Not watching the marriage fall apart. Not even the betrayal itself. It was telling my daughter. Watching her try to process what her mother had done. And knowing that no matter what, something in her broke too. I don't hate my ex-wife, but I can't forgive her. Because I don't recognize her anymore. She survived cancer. But what died in the process was us. And the man who would have given her the world? He's not coming back either.